Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and we have tornado weather coming my way. And so if I don't do this video now, we could lose our internet connection, and that's that. So let's get it going. I forgot to show you where Brad Garlinghouse had retweeted Stuart Alderoty's tweet where he had done a write-up in Fortune magazine. He says, I know some may forget this fact from time to time, but as Stuart Alderoty so eloquently said, the SEC can only exercise the authority expressly granted to it by Congress. Check out more in his op-ed here. So basically that's what they're saying. Is that Gary Gensler, just about everything the SEC is doing is not even within their power. They're just seeing if they can get away with it. And then there was another one of these 1 minutes. This time it's Ashish Burla.
Anything to do with blockchain, massive challenge. But if the XRP ledger can confirm a transaction in less than 5 seconds, I can do this in 1 minute. Hi, this is Ashish Burla, and this is Crypto in a Minute. What's the difference between crypto and blockchain? Well, somewhere along the journey of crypto, folks decided that the blockchain aspect was cool, but not the cryptocurrency aspect. And so folks decided to distinguish between crypto, which means a crypto asset, and a blockchain, and just the blockchain. But unfortunately, they don't work without each other. And so you need a cryptocurrency because you want the entire blockchain to be decentralized. You want it to run without counterparties. And you can do that with a neutral cryptocurrency like XRP, Bitcoin, or even Ether. But blockchain without cryptocurrency is just a glorified database, and it's not quite decentralized like a blockchain is. And so in my opinion, you need a crypto and you need a blockchain, and that's the solution.
And that is XRP in 1 minute. Now, check this out. This is a very good video because it brings things home. Part of the reason that I'm so confident, we got all this fear out there, but what Lehman Baird, this is the creator of Hedera Hashgraph, what he says in this video is so true. You need to really let it sink in. No matter how much fear is in a market, you've got to take a step back. This is the way I do things. You got to take a step back and look at the big picture. This is not the first time that there's been a pullback in any market. Listen to what he says. He's talking about the dot-com boom. Watch this. I lived through it. I know.
But why is it so undervalued?
Look, okay, let me give an analogy.
Okay.
And I don't want to answer your question.
No.
Because I don't want to get in trouble and hurt the project.
And I'm not saying,
I do want to answer.
Yeah.
In the late 90s,
yes,
we had this web thing that had come along.
Yes.
Everybody starts a web company.
Yes.
And I like pets. I'll make a pets.com. I don't have a business plan. I don't actually know what I'm going to do with it, but I'm going to go to VCs and get millions of dollars from VCs because I'm going to have a website, and web is cool.
Yes.
Okay.
And web succeeds. All web succeeds.
Also web succeeds.
Yeah.
So some of those, on paper are billion-dollar companies, and they have nothing but pets.com or a domain, and literally nothing. They don't even have a business plan. They don't know what they're going to do, and they're two kids in their dorm room, and this is the billion-dollar company.
Yes.
Then there were also mixed in some little companies like Amazon.com that said, we're going to think carefully about how to build something that actually changes the world. This is what people need. We're going to build something that makes people's lives better, and we're going to build a company around it. We'll name it Amazon.com.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe they were worth a lot to the VCs too. So we have all these people worth a lot to the VCs. People are gambling on them. Then you had the dot-com crash, and the chaff got blown away, and what we were left with was the wheat.
Yes.
And that, I think, we see rounds of that in our industry, and our industry is going to see more of that. We're still in our infancy. It's still the Wild West. There's still silliness going on.
Yeah.
But at some point, the real ones will survive. The non-real things will go away.
It's no different than anything, folks. It's happened 1,000 times in markets. It happened with the invention of cars. I remember Warren Buffett telling a story about how when there were cars, this is the reason Warren Buffett doesn't invest in technology. It's because you have these and it's so hard to pick the winners and the losers. Well, when you had cars, who survived? There was only three to five major car companies in the U.S. that survived. The rest of them, nobody ever heard of. This will be no different. I have my money on Ripple and XRP. Nexo, which was rated early this morning, is currently getting hit by withdrawals. Here's my question. Who are the weirdos who still have their money in Nexo after all of this stuff, with all these people being gone after that were paying interest and all of this going on? Who in the world would still have their money on any of these interest-bearing platforms? I never did trust them in the beginning. I don't get it. It's tagged on-chain wallets on EVM chains are down to less than 70 million in stables, 15 million in ETH. The one tagged Bitcoin address I can find has 5 million. Those people deserve what they get at this point, folks. If you didn't have your money out of these kind of things by now, I don't know what to do for you. Now, here's CNBC talking about Sam Bankman-Fried.
Welcome back to Squawk Box. A fascinating new Substack post that was just put up by FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried, who's currently under house arrest, awaiting his trial on fraud and other charges. In it, he blames Binance CEO CZ for the collapse of Alameda Research and says a substantial recovery for FTX customers remains possible. It is, for those who are interested in crypto and interested in this entire saga, it's a lengthy post. Goes into quite some detail about the math, makes a couple of fascinating arguments. One about customers of FTX US, saying that he believes that FTX US customers should be, quote, fully solvent and should be able to return all customer funds. One of the other fascinating notes of this is he comments on Sullivan and Cromwell, which is the law firm representing FTX in the bankruptcy. Recently, and he notes this as well, senators have raised concerns about potential conflicts of interest from Sullivan and Cromwell.
Wait a minute. You mean Sullivan and Cromwell that Jay Clayton's a part of? The same one from ETHgate? The same one that CNBC hired to be a commentator after ETHgate?
Because they also represented FTX on some transactions earlier. And he says in this note that S&C, which is Sullivan and Cromwell, and the GC General Counsel were the primary parties strong-arming and threatening me into naming the candidate they themselves chose as CEO of FTX, including for a solvent entity in FTX US, who then filed for Chapter 11 and chose S&C as counsel to the debtor entities. So there's...
Okay. Well, first of all, the first part of what he talked about, and I think Eleanor Terrett sums it up well here. In conversation with a veteran defense attorney on SBF Defense, if I rob a bank, but they recover all the stolen money, or even if I help get it back, I still robbed a bank. Sam is trying to take the focus off his actions and put the focus on the on people, ultimately getting their money back. Doesn't change his actions. He's hosed. If I were his lawyer, I would invest in a roll of duct tape. Exactly. And then Stefan Huber, who's now Mr. Huber, says, holy, you know what? Sullivan Cromwell was FTA. This is Jay Clayton's law firm, folks. That's why you can't ignore ETHgate, folks, because ETHgate is bigger than all this. ETHgate, there's a reason that they're involved in ETHgate and this. Sullivan Cromwell was FTX's and SBF's principal law firm during the fraud. During the fraud. During and after the bankruptcy, senators have raised concerns about conflicts of interest because Sullivan and Cromwell made the contacts with regulators. Jay Clayton was and is an advisor to FTX. CNBC interviewed him X times without mentioning that once. Gasparino never mentioned it once because, well, who was the law firm of consensus? Sullivan Cromwell. Who got a free pass? Consensus. Who was chairman? Clayton. Gasparino's friend. Then there's this from Cowboy Crypto. He retweets that and says Sullivan Cromwell, where Jay Clayton was for over 20 years, pocketed a $12 million retainer from FTX before filing bankruptcy, while Quinn Emanuel, whoever that is, and Sullivan pulled in $500,000 for their work. And here's his documentation. Then there was this. This is like a reporter guy, or like a vlogger outside of the courtroom.
Okay, here we are, Matthew Russell Lee, Inner City Press, here in Foley Square, covering the Southern District of New York Courthouse, where yesterday, our filing from about a week ago to unseal the co-signers of Samuel Bankman-Fried of FTX. We filed it the day that they made their request to seal them. The New York Times also filed yesterday, and Judge Kaplan later in the day said that both filings, numbers 40 and 31, must be responded to by Bankman-Fried's lawyers by January 19th. So we'll see. It kicks the can down the road, but at least we'll get to see how they can claim. Now, in all fairness, the Times' filing was longer. It included a lot of the well-known cases, Lugosh, etc. Our point is really that here in the Southern District, other defendants don't get that treatment. Even since we did our filing, a guy called Neil Phillips had to disclose his co-signers by name and amount, etc. But this happens every day in the magistrate's court. Speaking of which, yesterday we covered a big case there, Handler, that you can find that we wrote about. But we're going to stay on the SBX beat because here's a really two-sided story. So the bankruptcy in Delaware, a group of 4 senators wrote and said there should be an independent investigator, that Sullivan and Cromwell, the law firm, is conflicted because it had, I guess, a former partner as the general counsel of FTX. I'm all for that kind of filing. There's only one.
So Sullivan Cromwell's all in this, but most importantly, what he was calling for was for the unsealing of the co-signers on this FTX thing. Big deal. Now, this video I showed of John Deaton yesterday, John retweeted, he said, respectfully, when will Gary Gensler be called to testify before the Financial Services Committee? I certainly volunteer to offer testimony how 75,000 individual holders, developers, and small businesses have been abandoned by Chairman Gensler. Then we got this. A lot of drama. There's a lot of drama in crypto these days. DCG is reportedly considering selling parts of its venture capital portfolio, which includes Coinbase, Ripple, Silvergate, Decentraland, and Bitcoin's Lightning Network, among others. Then this is part of the thread that I showed you earlier this morning from XRP Darren. But David Schwartz comes in. They're talking about the tax issue, folks. This is what I brought up a year ago, and I got shouted down by all these Flare people like I was wrong, and I was not wrong. They just didn't want it to be talked about, I guess, because the fact is, Jack, the fact is, any of this stuff that you get is taxed upon your constructive receipt of it. And David Schwartz addresses it right here. He says, I can't find any explanation of how it actually works. As I understand it, you cannot artificially delay realization of income tax, realization of income to avoid or delay income tax. And if you think you can, you better default to that you can't. Constructive receipt is what's important, folks. Constructive receipt, from what I've read, basically means that you have possession of it in that you can move it, you can trade it. Now, so you may not, if it depends on what all of those mean. Now, according to this definition, income, though not actually reduced to the taxpayer's possession, is constructively received in a taxable year when it's credited to his account, set apart for him, and made available so that he may draw upon it at any time, or so that he can have drawn upon it during. So in other words, withdrawal may be the test, and I'm assuming that's the test with digital assets too. Let's go back to here. So David Schwartz puts that, and then this guy shows a page from Flare, enable tax deferment, such that those that participate in the ecosystem are not unduly penalized. But then at the bottom it says, this is not tax advice, go to your accountant. Bottom line is, I'm with David on this. Oh, so it almost certainly won't work for the U.S. See my link. In the U.S., the date of actual receipt doesn't matter. I believe that the second you are able to withdraw it is when your constructive receipt is. And that's when that is considered income and taxable. And I'm not an accountant, but I'm telling you how I'm going to handle mine. Now, Flare, for another day in a row, is down again. Well, to me, this is an opportunity. My understanding is that all the flare that I purchase, I will be able to then, like if I purchase 10,000 flare, then I am purchasing the right to receive 10,000 flare. I think I have that right. Maybe I got that wrong. But the whole thing confuses me. It's always bothered me that all of this is so confusing, because anytime things are too confusing, it's red flags for me. So anyway, I went in and bought some flare just now because the prices are down. I believe flare is going to do well. I'm not out to bash flare or anything, but I'm also not out to disregard things I know to be the truth. Okay, so that's where I stand on that. Now, this was funny. XRP, the Standard Productions, which is parity, put this out, breaking news. Can you believe this? SEC announces XRP buyback plan for $0.000000001 per token. And of course, that's a joke, but it's funny amidst all of the fighting that's been going on over the XRP buyback, and I think that makes it good comedy. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends and family that there is a joke SEC XRP buyback plan on the table.